All right, welcome back to another episode of Tack Bodybuilding. Had a little bit of a hiatus there. I was in the process of moving for the past 2 weeks, plus the hurricane. So I think it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since we put up an episode. But we're back again today, and it's going to be a little bit of a different episode today because we've got some drama, I guess you would call it, or some news in the industry. I feel like this episode is primarily going to be the hour of Phil. So why don't you start us off here?
Well, I mean, listen, last night I said a lot of what I had to say. I told people about a lot of the experiences that I've had. Anybody who's watching this that wants a recap on it, it's on Antoine Vallant's YouTube channel. We filmed for a little bit. He saw me getting riled up because he knows I really dislike Jansen. So he wanted to get me while I was hot, and he sure did. And I shared all the things that I've been told over the years, the things I've understood. Listen, you can't really say anything is factual unless you were there. But so this is, what I've heard, what people have said. You want to throw the word allegedly out there, that's fine for whatever legal reasons. But fact of the matter is, a lot of this stuff is commonly known, and it's been going on for a long time, and people are just scared to speak out.
Stop.
What?
Anybody who's listening right now and has no idea what you're even talking about, how about we start there? What's the backstory here?
Okay, so Quentin Area decided to air out a lot of his experiences with Matt Jansen and basically tore him to pieces. But he told the truth. And I know it's the truth because I know a lot of people in Quentin's inner circle. And I know what was going on at the time, and I know what I was hearing, and I know what I saw on stage. The fact of the matter is, Quentin said, 2 years later, bulking to, what was it, 330, working his butt off, and he came back to stage 2 years later lighter, in worse condition. Like, how does that happen? That's not a mistake. That's not an error. And then he decided to tell him, which is hilarious right now because Quentin's been showing this stuff, but I've been getting a lot of messages that his gear was fake. Now, listen, I've had clients whose gear was fake. Sebastian had fake gear in prep. But what happened when we put real gear in? At 8 weeks out, you put, 40, 50 pounds on each dumbbell incline press in like 2 weeks? That's how you know gear's fake. But the fact of the matter is, I was asking him from 16, from 14, from 12, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And he's, no, I'm sure. And then eventually we caught it. So, if you're a good coach, you see this far out. You're not going to catch this 2 weeks out like Matt Jansen tried to say about Nick Walker, allegedly. I don't know if he said it on a podcast, but I know it's been roundabout talked about pretty consistently from people in that inner circle, saying that his gear was fake. And it's a pretty consistent thing that he likes to say to people. And it's funny because I've gotten at least 10 DMs from people who in the past worked with Matt and didn't get in shape, wasn't ready for the show, and he told them their gear was fake. And then Quentin said he had a ton of people say that to him. So apparently every time he fails, that's his answer, is your gear is fake. And Quentin even made a better point. He's like, my gear wasn't fake when I was 330. My gear wasn't fake until I was 8 weeks out, which is pretty hilarious. And another point that me and Antoine made was, we know where it comes from. Like, I know that. I have clients that use it. It's not fake. So
is it my lab?
No.
Okay.
But it's complete horseshit. The gear was not fake. You screwed up. You dropped the ball. And I gave my honest opinion. Dorian Hamilton's a great coach. And, Quentin's a great bodybuilder. So he probably saw the shape that Quentin was showing up in. He's like, oh, this is going to be easy. This is another genetic phenom. Because Matt Jansen likes to build a facade, with my opinion, fake reputation. He jumps on the bandwagon with people with crazy genetics and hard work ethic. And then he builds his reputation on the back of them. And then he makes his sales with everybody else. But I guess what he realized was, and Antoine actually said this on the podcast, is Quentin actually hits a wall towards the end, and then it's hard to get that last little bit of body fat off and keep him big. And he didn't realize that was going to be a problem. And anytime he runs into a problem that I've seen, it didn't work out so well. Look at Nick's situation. You don't realize Nick's gear was fake or Nick was having a problem until 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out. Come on. You've had this guy for how many years? I would have seen that a mile away. Ray Charles saw that. So 16 weeks out, 14 weeks out, you should have known something was off. You should have known something was wrong. And now what I think is just happening is Matt Jansen's now getting exposed. People are seeing the truth. And then, listen, it's like dominoes. A lot of people didn't have the guts to talk out about it because, like you guys have seen, you can look at my page. I talked about Seth Shaw, what happened to North Americans. I don't want to go into the whole thing, but the gist of it is he tried to speak out against Matt, and Matt's Fallon attacked him so badly that he ended up apologizing himself and then deleting what he said. And I even posted, and Seth actually texted me after the podcast, and I posted that response. And Seth Scholl will definitely talk about it. So, people are afraid of his following, so they didn't want to speak out. But as soon as Quentin did that, and then as soon as I went hard on it, everyone came out of the woodworks. I'm telling you, I've gotten well over 100 DMs today, and more than half of them are bad things about Matt Jansen. More than half of them. A ton of them are pros. So, like, everybody with their bad experience is now coming out, and he's really being exposed for what he really is. I've been very vocal. I've been very honest about this. I don't pull punches. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm sorry. If you don't like me, you don't like me. You don't like what I have to say. I'm going to say what I have to say. He's not a smart coach. He's not very smart. I wouldn't put him. Honestly, I probably wouldn't even put him in the top 40. Like, I can sit here and rattle off the top of my head 20, 30 better coaches immediately. Kyle, much better coach than him, much smarter than him. I would throw Kyle up against him on a podcast, spitting game about science any day of the week, or contest prep, or building muscle. Not even close. But Kyle doesn't market like Jansen does, and doesn't jump on the backs of people that, are genetic freaks. Kyle actually does the work. He actually develops his own people. He can troubleshoot. He can do things when he's in a tough situation because he actually understands. And this is why Jansen has a hard time, because he's got this one little template, and when things don't go right, he has no idea what to do. So that's the gist of what happened. But just as Matt Jansen, I think, is a scumbag. And now he just got exposed for it. Sean Clarita dropped him. Nick Walker dropped him. Brett Wilkes dropped him. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now. He's going to come out of the woodworks. He's going to say, you know what? I need to spend more time with my family. I got to spend time on my business. I've been doing this too long. I need more personal time, so I'm going to retire. He's going to try to make it look like it was his decision, when really all his pros dropped him and he'll never get another pro. So he's got to save face somehow. But that's what really happened.
Okay, well, let's slow down a bit here, right? Kyle, what's your take on this situation?
So I think it's an unfortunate thing, right? I think, again, I don't speak from, I have a personal relationship with Matt, right? I wouldn't say we're best of friends, but I wouldn't say he's not someone I couldn't text right now or call him, and I'm sure he'd pick up. Do I think he'd come on a podcast? No, I don't. I wouldn't dare do that, right? Because it's not beneficial. But I think, unfortunately, there's just been a lot of things that come out in the last 24 hours, and it's hard to dispute them in terms of what is being said and how it's being said. So it's disappointing to see. I think in terms of, as Phil was alluding to, and the way I want to kind of make the primary focus of not just this podcast, but when people that have been messaging me about it, it's more of like, how did this happen, right? How could this be avoided? Those, a lot of people asked, why did so-and-so pull out of prep? Listen, it's not my business to spew, but at the end of the day, I think you'll figure it out if you really wanted to kind of interrogate the situation and investigate a little bit. It's very obvious of why something happens and what the reality is behind it. And unfortunately, I think it's, again, there's just, I think I was listening to the podcast. I try not to get caught up with too many things, but I think on Quentin's podcast or vlog, whatever you want to call it, I think he mentioned like 11 pros or something mentioned the fake gear thing, which, again, if that's actual data and it's not just like I heard it with Nick Walker situation or whatnot, but I think if that's something that he consistently touches on and says, that's a bit odd to me. So I just think like that's without more specific questions, I don't really have too much to say that I can't really stick up for hearing certain things, right? I could use excuses and say, okay, well, there's always two sides to a story, but there's a lot of people coming out of the woodworks. And again, you're also going to get those situations where, I forgot the exact thing I was looking into last week. It was another industry, but basically once one person says something, a lot of other people will start saying, oh, this company sucks too, for example.
Me too.
Sometimes you'll run into that occasionally, but at the same time, when you're having bigger names speak up, that's when it becomes like, okay, well, if that person has some evidence, there has to be some type of statement made, right? And that's the only thing to me. So I always try to think, I was speaking to Phil a couple times prior to this conversation here, like if I was in that position, right? Have I messed up before? Sure, I've messed up, but I at least try to, hey, I messed up. It's my fault. Here's your money, for example. Like, I fucked up, right? And it happens for different reasons. And I'm not saying it's during a peak or it's a prep. Maybe I didn't answer an email, whatever it may be. You have to take accountability. I think that's my main thing is, so if some things are true that are being said, just take accountability. Hey, I fucked up. And there's nothing else you can do. You can't go back. So my main thing is I err on the side of the athletes. They're being told what to do. So when you have robots that are being told what to do, you're programming them what to do. So that's the person doing that, right? So whether, again, now as a coach myself, sometimes you have athletes that decide to do their own thing. They double dose, they eat their own food, they don't do the cardio, and then they don't communicate. That's a problem between the athlete and coach where, hey, both sides need to communicate. But I'm not hearing that. At least I haven't heard that yet. So maybe that is the case. And all of these things we're hearing, there will be proof provided that, hey, this person didn't do this. I think it's a little unlikely based on how I'm hearing it. So that's the hard part for me to say, hey, he just messed up. It's okay. So it's unfortunate. And I think at this point in time, I think with high level athletes, anybody that just because you're high level or just amateur level, I think you should always put the same time into the person in terms of like whatever the expectations are. You shouldn't kind of leave them on red or not answer all these crazy rumors I'm hearing. I don't know what is true and not true. So if I don't hear it enough, it's hard for me to speak to. But again, I'm very surprised that I haven't heard any kind of statement yet. Just saying, hey, I take accountability, I messed up, or this is not true and this is why. Right? I would at least acknowledge some things. But sometimes the best answer is no answer at all because maybe there is no answer to provide.
It's defeat. So
I have a question before we go. Sebastian, you're the only one who's not on the inside here, right? I want to know what your perspective is from the outside.
what do you mean I'm not on the inside?
Meaning you don't have you don't know him very well. I mean, you've worked with him. Actually, you have worked with him for a short while, but you haven't watched his career like I have and Kyle has, and you didn't work with him like tight like for a while like Kyle has. So you're kind of more distant from him than the rest of us. So I would like to know what your perspective is looking in on this.
Okay. So obviously coming up in this industry, getting involved in bodybuilding, I was always looking at Jansen as a top coach, like up there with Hani, all obviously due to, just how he's been able to market himself through athletes and all that good stuff. So a lot of it was smoke and mirrors, but I mean, looking at it now from the situation now, because I did have work with him, I moved there, I hired him and I saw what the situation really was. And obviously it wasn't a good experience. And it's not like he fucked up one of my preps or anything, but I just saw the reality of the situation. I learned a lot of shit when I was living there and it was exposed to a lot of things. So looking at it now, really, I think everybody's like, you see these guys leaving and you see Quentin talking about these things and we're talking about him fucking up preps, but I think the real problem with him as a coach is like not even being talked about. The ghost coaching, all that other shit. I feel like the actual problems aren't even being addressed yet. It's just, oh, he fucked up some guy's prep. Like, I don't even think that's really the big issue.
Oh,
No.
absolutely. A lot of people have been messaging me and talking to me and all this stuff. And I said to them, you haven't even heard the worst stuff yet. Like, there's a lot worse stuff that's been going on, allegedly. So I know somebody who used to work for him that claims that they ghost coach for him. So what they told me they would do is he would get all the clients. They would think that it's actually Matt Jansen. They would pay Matt Jansen prices, that premium. And then every once in a while, he would hold the phone up to his mouth and tell them what to say so that they would get a voice note from Matt and think that that's who they're dealing with. And that if he was going to run into a client at a show, he would have to be briefed on this client, on who it was, so that he would be ready to recognize them and answer questions and talk about their coaching and whatnot so that they didn't get caught. Now, in this coach's defense, I think this is a very good coach. I don't want to drop his name, badmouth him or anything. I think it's a very good coach. And his defense to me was something that I accepted and I appreciated. He said to me, verbatim, you know what? I don't feel bad about this because I coached the shit out of them and he would have ignored them.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So the thing is, I don't ever want to get involved in drama and entertain like a Greg Doucette type of thing. So I want to clarify that the reason why we're even talking about this is I feel like it is important to address this because it's not just him. There's a lot of coaches in this industry where it is just a lot of fucking smoke and mirrors. And when I went to Florida and I realized this, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know it's not just a rumor. Like I've seen it with my own eyes. It's absolute proof. And the guy that we're talking about he's been on this podcast. I'm not going to say his name because it's not my business, but he's been on the podcast. Yes. And it was after he left, there was a huge falling out there while I lived there. Then some other guys came into the camp, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was still going on. Who knows? I have no idea. I don't want to, just say hearsay or throw rumors around, but it's
Well, listen,
it's important to understand that what you see on social media and what is being presented is not the reality in a majority of scenarios in this industry.
Well, here's the thing. This is not a new thing. This is not a new rumor that's going around or a new thing that people are talking about. Apparently, back in the day, I'm talking about maybe 2017-ish, maybe, or 2016-ish, a pro was staying with him and came into a group that we were all in and said, all he does is take GH, sleep all day, and lift, and his wife sits at the damn dining room table with his laptop and answers all his clients. That's what was said. I wasn't there to verify it, but that's what was said. So this has been said about him for almost a decade, for a long time. This is a common theme that we've been hearing about him. So I feel bad for a lot of people that message me, and a lot of people, like I've had people that DM me and shown me conversations and things and such. It was pretty clear to me that it wasn't him. So I feel bad saying like that he wasn't coaching you. But it is what it is. I think it's a dirtbag move to make. There's a lot of other coaches that do it, like you said. So this is a good opportunity to just raise awareness to it. He's just the first person that's really getting exposed to this type of stuff and this type of behavior and just being a dirtbag overall. But there's a lot of coaches that do this stuff. So if we could raise awareness to this, and most of all, the biggest thing is making people not afraid to speak out. That's important, that people are not afraid to speak out. Now, listen, this is not an invitation to come and complain because you didn't like the way somebody coached you, or you thought the diet was wrong, or you didn't like the cycle. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about very immoral behavior, right? Not bad coaching. I'm talking about immoral behavior. Okay. So don't come crying with all those stories of, oh, well, you didn't pay special attention to me. And, I was on the same training program and I didn't like the diet and you gave me foods that didn't agree with me. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being scammed here. We're talking about people doing dirtbag things, and there's a lot of coaches that do it. But if we can empower people to speak out about it, then these coaches are going to be a lot more hesitant to do it because they know they're going to get caught, right? So hopefully these people start getting caught, or they just stop doing it altogether. But right now it's prevalent.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, you look like you were going to say something before.
I was just saying, I think what's being brought to light right now is more so people's preps not being, prioritized. Basically, that's a lot of the conversation of those high level guys came down to their experience more so during a prep, because advanced guys off season wise, a lot of them could do their own programming, I guess you could say, right? It doesn't take rocket science. Here's bodybuilding. It's not the most complex thing in the world. Most of the people that are high level coaches have zero education behind it, self-taught. Not saying you can't be good at it, but I don't want to hear when people are like, oh, I have I have a master's in this. Yeah, show me a certification, fuckface, right? I don't want to. I'm tired of hearing people say that because it's all lies. You're not. You didn't spend any time doing it, and you certainly don't learn anything in school or literature.
You mean like Greg Michelle?
Like who?
Doesn't Greg say that?
All Greg says is buy my fucking.
I have no idea. I just see it all the time. I see people mention they have this like degree, that they're a master's in this. Motherfucker, you didn't even graduate college. What are you talking about, masters? Like, show me the plaque on the wall, because you would have that, and they don't, or they have some side, bullshit campus that doesn't even have anything to do with the real school, right? So that aside, that would annoys me. I think what puts it a bad taste in my mouth more so is just the light that's being brought to coaching. Just because the way Quinton's video was that basically he doesn't really think any coaches are out there are good. And I don't think that's all true. I think there are some coaches out there that do give a shit, and they do put their money where their mouth is. And again, at some point, you can only have so many clients. So when I hear coaches have 300, 400 clients, you're peaking 25 people for a show. No, the fuck you're not. You don't know what you're doing. You're putting people in a group chat, telling them to eat meals at the same time. I hear all the stories. That's not coaching to me, right? Because again, what I don't like, people think they're like, I don't know, NFL head coaches. And they're like, hey, we're going to call this play, and this is what you're going to run this play. I'm calling X's and O's. This is not head coaching, okay? This is more of a teacher and a student. You need to adapt. Not all these students or bodybuilders learn the same way. Some of them, hey, I need you to fly here so I can learn, show you how I want you to train because you're just not getting it. Everyone's a little different. Other people you can respond to very short, give them a thumbs up, and they know exactly what they need to do, right? There's different type of robots. And some people listen. A lot of the guys I coach, they don't fucking listen. They don't listen. So it's really hard to where I need to have them come here. I'm going to lock you in a fucking room. Here's your meals. And now we're going to go to the gym. And then they learn, they're like, okay, this is how you do it. Not the hardest, but it's not the most enjoyable either, right? So that's what I try to make light of the whole situation is there are good coaches out there. How to spot them or find them. You can listen to some, such as me. Joking aside, right? I would say do your due diligence and your research. When you sign up to inquire about a coach, get the person on the phone, talk to them. If it's impossible to schedule a call with them, if they can't cut out any time to even conversate with you, there's a problem, right? Go over the expectations. I'm paying you X amount. What is this going to cover? How are my check-ins set up? What are the expectations? What is in my contract that states if you don't abide by these? I have a lot of people that come to me sometimes contractually, they're obligated for 6 more months with the coach. And I tell them, like, hey, like, what's going on? Can't get your money back? No, he told me to fuck off. Oh, like, did you have a contract? Well, no. Okay, well, to me, you could just run. These aren't NBA, MLB contracts. Okay, they're not going to hold up in the court of law. But that aside, I think people don't do enough time and research. They just look at the highlight reel of Instagram. And again, like pot calling the kettle black. I have my Instagram is I don't post much. And when I do post, it's high profile people that have won. I have people that win shows all the time. I don't even post a story because I don't go on social media because I don't need to market certain things. But in this case, we're talking about someone that perhaps used marketing to their advantage to have an opportunity. And I can't fault the person for it if that's what it really came to and that's what it really was. You did a good job. I don't approve of going about it that way. But again, it's not the only person, which is why I use this situation. What annoys me is, again, it puts a bad taste in athletes' mouths about coaches. And not all coaches are that way, right? Some coaches actually give a fuck. I actually get invested. I get emotional. I get pissed off if I can't figure something out. And there's been plenty of cases. If something goes wrong, hey, man, I'm going to coach you for free for these months because like you're not happy. And like I promised you something. That's why I'm very careful with my words and not promising when someone comes to me, hey, I want to be pro. Do you think I can be pro? How can you possibly ask me that kind of question? I don't know what your potential is. I never worked with you. If anyone can give you a direct answer of that, they're selling you some bullshit. You're going to like what you hear and you're going to sign up. I'm not here to do that. And again, you get these pros. Anybody can coach some of these top level guys. The hardest thing, the hardest variable to control is the stress. And I think Phil, you mentioned it on your segment that I heard where Hani focuses a lot on the psychological part because that's what it comes down to. These people are so willing to work hard, they're going to get in shape because they're going to look in the mirror and say, fuck, like, okay, what do I got to do? 90 minutes of cardio? Okay, I'll do it. They don't even ask. So they're going to get in shape, but how good can they become? That's where, again, it takes a little bit more of time. And unfortunately, it seems like the cases that I'm hearing, there just wasn't the time put in. And that's what's bothersome because, again, I get it. Everyone has a lot of shit going on. But when you're dealing with certain caliber athletes, or even when I have my social media superstars, I don't want you to make a fool of yourself or a fool of me, right? I'll coach another person. I'll keep moving on with my day. You're going to remember that shit forever. If you have bad pictures or you have a bad showing. So it's when people's careers are on the line, that's where it's bothersome because now you're kind of fucking with someone's livelihood. Just as if someone came out and started trashing my coaching, that person's now fucking with me, right? They're going to jeopardize me getting more clients. So that's a personal attack. So it's kind of like, that's how I look at it, where when I'm hearing certain stories, how did that happen? And again, the athletes, they're trusting someone. So if you're sending a check-in and the person has no idea what you look like last week, hey, keep going, everything's good. At some point, especially when you have time with a client, Sebastian, you've prepped a couple shows. If I asked you, hey, man, you're going to work with me this time, you worked with Phil last time, what did you look like 12 weeks out? I'm sure you have that data. And if you don't, I don't think that athlete's going to be very high level because they don't have that data to reflect back on. But when you coach someone over and over, Phil, you coached me back in not too long ago. I'm not that old, okay? Sebastian, fuck off. You have pictures probably saved of when I looked like 16 weeks out, 12 weeks out, 8 weeks, because that's what you're
I
supposed to do.
literally do. I came across them last week.
Yes, and they're probably good pictures, right? Hell yeah. So you have to save these things, right? So I think when a client, if you feel that way, speak up. I always tell people, vocalize. Like, let me know what is going on. If you feel like there's something that you're not getting, at least ask. If I think you're out of your mind, I'm going to tell you you're out of your mind. I'm not doing that. But again, clarify these things up front. That way you don't feel like, I get a lot of people, I can imagine Matt in this case was getting, high level people that they think because it was something they saw, they're going to get treated the same way. And in most cases, especially for me, when I'm on a lot of different people's YouTubes, hey, I get paid for that shit. I just want to let you know. So I'm not going to be having you fly in and do a video with you. You never even competed before. You never did anything. That's all not included with this coaching. I just want to clarify. So that is what people have to distinguish. And they just think sometimes, again, they get caught up in what they see online. And again, this is not about Matt. This is about coaching in general. Do your due diligence in research and who you're going to work with. When someone comes to me, I always ask them, did you talk to anyone else? No. Why? Talk to other people. Make sure that you're making the right decision for yourself. That way you are super excited about it and you don't just think you're doing what Jack and Joe are doing at the gym that look good. Maybe they look good because they're genetic freaks and they always looked good, right? So pay attention to those things. But that's my biggest thing is right now what the focus is on is how attention wasn't put in, which it clearly seems like was the case somehow. But there's millions of coaches in this industry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I somewhat disagree with that. I don't think that this was a negligent situation. I think it was partially negligence, but I think this was a case of him running into something that he hasn't run into, and he didn't have the education and knowledge to do it. I think that he didn't. I think that they told him to fix Clarita's stomach, right? So it wasn't sticking out and get a little more condition. So Clarita shows up 10, 12 pounds lighter. That means to pull 10 pounds of mass off of somebody who can't really afford that 10 pounds of mass because he's already smaller than everybody, stature-wise. So you don't need to pull tens of pounds of mass off somebody to flatten their stomach and get them a little more conditioned. With Nick, he knows how Nick's supposed to work.
But at the same time, right, to my rebuttal for that and why I still think it's more a negligence aspect or not paying enough attention, if there is something you didn't know, hey, this person's 10 weeks out, something's wrong. I'm doing my normal shit. It ain't working. You got to address it. You got to fix it. Or you have to be upfront. Hey, I don't know what's going on. Things aren't working right. We're going to try X, Y, and Z. I have no idea why, if that's the case. But if this doesn't work, this is where it's at. And again, that has to be very concise. And again, I understand digestive issues. I think that was Brett's reasoning or whatnot. And I see other people that pull out of prep, whether it's visa reasons or they have health issues. I don't know. I don't really care. I just think there are certain checkpoints you have to have when you're working with somebody to make sure that can't happen. And if it does happen and maybe you don't have the education, which not everyone will have, obviously, or the experience perhaps, communicate that. Be upfront so the athlete can never, ever say, you didn't tell me that. That's my main thing is put it all on yourself. And that's it. I always tell people, if you will start listening and asking questions, Phil, I'm sure people come to you. So Sebastian, even you, what do you think about this? My coach has me doing this. Why are you asking me? Because it doesn't make any sense what you're asking. I can't help you. And once you start doing that, that clearly shows there's something wrong. You don't trust the person. So you have to just trust as an athlete, do your research, find the coach you want to work with, and literally do everything they say. That way, when you don't show up how you're supposed to, all you can do is point the finger. Hey, bro, I followed everything you asked, and I don't look right. So, bye.
I posted this in my story last week. A top 10 Olympian came to me about 10 days out from the Olympia and had a problem going on and just decided to just send me the whole story as if I was just going to sit there and answer it. And I said, don't you have a coach? What does your coach think? And he said, my coach is really good with nutrition, doesn't know anything about this stuff. And I figured you would know, because you know more medical stuff. And I said, okay, well, number one, you can sign up for a consult. And number two, I'm going to need your coach's permission because I'm not helping you with something behind his back. And he got really angry and unfollowed me and didn't like to hear that. He said, I'm not asking you to coach me. This is more like going to a doctor. And my answer was, doctors charge fees. So I'm going to need your permission slip signed by your daddy, and I'm going to need a fee. And he didn't like that. And this is a top 10 Olympian. I shit you not. But one thing I wanted to touch on before we went too far is something that you previously mentioned that I wanted to clarify because I know there's a lot of young viewers here. There's a lot of young viewers that view this. And I want them to understand that this is something I said on the previous podcast, and I stand hard against this. And I've had this conversation with a lot of great coaches, and all the honest ones agree. The Olympia doesn't determine who the best coaches are. Those are the genetic freaks. Most of the people on the Olympia stage are going to get there anyway. Those coaches are not the best coaches. They might be great coaches. They might not be. Being on the Olympia stage doesn't determine if they're a good coach. Sometimes the coach makes a difference and gets the client there, but typically, like Nick Walker, he was going to get there no matter who coached him. No matter who coached him. Derek Lunsford, no matter who coached him, he was getting to that Olympia stage. I don't care who it is. I could have picked some of the worst coaches possible. They'd have got there. So It doesn't necessarily mean because you have Olympians that you're the best coach. It means that you got your hands on the best genetics, right? And that's kind of how, we've seen certain coaches build their reputation and inflate their reputation because they're showing this highlight reel of all these great pros. And actually, it's funny. It's on my page right now. I actually forgot about this, but a lot of you guys might know Ziegler. He actually put up a funny video because Jansen used to DM people and offer them free GH if they would let him coach him. And eventually he got his hands on a lot of good genetics, and then he slowly built on that. And he said to the next pro, well, look, I coached this pro. And then he said to the next pro, well, I coached these two pros. And that's how he slowly worked his way up and built that facade. But there's a lot of coaches that do that, not just him. There's a lot of coaches that build their name on a facade of great pros and Olympians. So it's like Kyle said, you need to talk to people. You need to see how they work, see how they operate, maybe talk to some of their best clients, right? Because like he said, a lot of you are just like looking at a highlight reel and be like, oh, that's the coach I want. How do you know you want that coach? How do you know that's even good for you, right? So you've got to do your diligence better. You've got to ask better questions, explore a little more, have conversations, interview them, whatever it is you have to do. But don't just pick a coach because you saw somebody that looked good and you thought that, the coach is going to make you look like that. Like he said, that person could be a genetic freak. You don't know that, So like this is just one case of just one person really inflating their reputation and, doing extremely well and building this crazy reputation and resume only for it to blow up in their face when the truth comes out. Right. And, a weak foundation, shaky house is always going to come down. So we need to be, more, emphatic about you guys really drilling these coaches, doing your diligence, seeing how they work. A lot of them will post what they do in stories, what their clients say, how things go. Right. If you're looking at a coach and you don't see any, listen, I love when a client says to me, you're the best coach. We did so great. I've never made progress like this. So what do we all do? We screenshot it, right? We put it in our story, show everybody because it feels good. It really does to know you made a difference in somebody's life like that. If you don't ever see that, probably means they don't ever get that. I think your mic is off.
You're muted, Sebastian.
Have I been muted this whole time?
No, you just for the last 5 minutes.
I was going to say there's something I want to touch on, and I feel like we're kind of insinuating that these top coaches, the guys at the top that are good at marketing, it's always smoke and mirrors, and I don't think that's necessarily true. Like if we just take the example with Jansen, right? I go around, I tell a bunch of guys that I know have great genetics, hey, I'll give you free gear. Come, it's like to me that sounds like a great fucking marketing tactic, but the problem is, am I actually smart and can I actually help other people too? But that in itself, what?
Or do you deserve that opportunity? Did you put your time and effort in, and have you proved that you can actually do the job, or are you just bribing somebody?
Yes, but see. Take Jansen, like he was able. These guys are going to grow no matter what you're saying. So it really doesn't fucking matter who's going to coach Derek Lunsford, right? So if you get everybody's done this. Like you've done this, Kyle's done this. Like you'll want to coach the kid you see that has great genetics. Everybody wants to coach that person because it's going to help you, right? So if you say, "I'll coach you for free," do this or whatever, like, is that inherently bad? I don't think it is. It's just a matter of are you a shitty coach at core or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, having no Olympians doesn't mean anything different than having a ton of Olympians. It doesn't determine whether you're a good coach or not. I always say, and I've always said this, the difference that you can make determines if you're a good coach or not. And I bring up certain people, and I like to bring up AJ Sims because it's a very clear example for everybody. Hassan could not get in shape, could not get peeled for stage, could not get dry. He went through 15 freaking coaches probably. Justin Rodriguez, same thing, could not get in shape, couldn't do anything about it. All of a sudden, AJ Sims brings them to stage peeled. He made a difference. He did what the other coaches could not do. So what you need to be asking yourself really is, what difference does this coach make? Do they deal with people who have genetics like me, not like them? And can they get those type of people in shape? Like Kyle, I don't know if you remember this, but me and Johnny used to joke about a client we called the bad genetics kid, and I ended up winning a show with him. And we were just like, how did this happen? But the kid just worked his freaking butt off. And I just tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and did everything I could possibly think of. And he was diligent and he ended up winning his class one day. But like we joked around, like calling him back because his body just was non-responsive to everything. And it was a hard situation to deal with. I got frustrated a lot of the time. I was questioning myself some of the time, like, why can't I do this? But eventually made it happen, So like you'll get, a lot of people are not going to, most people are not going to have great genetics. Most people will not have great genetics. People like to look at my competition pictures in the past and they say, oh, well, I have average genetics. I work my absolute butt into the ground. I have average genetics. It's not even a question. So, it's more of a matter of what can you do with the average person? What can you do when there's a problem? How can you troubleshoot? How can you outthink this process? What can you fix? What difference can you make? That's the question. So if you see somebody grab onto a pro, right, and that pro had already been growing, and that pro continues to grow, and then they do great, what difference did that coach actually make? Their trajectory was already up, right? I took a pro 2018 that was in the last call out of every single show he had done as a pro. And I put him in the first call out of every pro show that we did together. That's called making a difference, So how much of a difference can you make? That's the question. What can this guy actually do? Because most people are not going to have Nick Walker genetics. They're going to have genetics like me or worse. So you're going to end up in a tough spot. If your coach is not educated, they're not getting you anywhere.
Does Hani Rambod make a difference?
I think he does, honestly, because this was brought up about how he gets a lot of guys that were second place and third place and this and that. But I remember when Hani Rambod was coaching amateurs too. He coached Seth Feroce, and Brandon Ray was actually the favorite in the light heavies that year, 2009. And he had like a Sean Ray-like physique. And everybody's like, there's no chance anybody's beating this kid. Seth Feroce beat him because Hani Rambod nailed it. He took Mark Alvisi and beat a favorite. So Hani has had a track record where he's done it with the amateurs. He's done it with the people in situations where people didn't really think that he could, right? So I think that, but he's also got the strength, like Kyle mentioned, about the psychological side of things. Hani has been very honest. He's never said, like, I am the best at nutrition. He said, I'm best at getting in people's heads, and we have phone calls every night, and I get them on track, and I get them thinking the right thing. And like I said, Michael Jordan had a sports psychologist. Kobe Bryant had a sports psychologist. All great athletes have. And this is what he specializes in. So I think that's a phenomenal strength to have. So yes, I do think that Hani has somewhere along the line proven himself. I don't know what he's done with lower level, but I can't remember anybody's missed.
Yeah, I think that obviously is a huge factor. Like Kyle said, the psychological aspect, you always hear that about Hani. Obviously, I don't know exactly what he does, but we all know that the psychological aspect, the psychological effect that you could have on a client is a huge factor. And it's funny because I know Hani doesn't work with a lot of people. He keeps his circle very small. And obviously, we know, take Jansen, for example, where it's just all dollar signs. He's running the clientele up so high that he has to have other people answer the messages. Otherwise, nobody's getting responded to, which would happen from time to time, going 3-4 weeks without a response. But I've had, even me, and I'm not coaching any fucking pros, had numerous clients from Jansen come to me after this fact because of everything and relayed their stories to me. And we're talking about how somebody like Hani can have a positive psychological impact. And on the opposite end of that spectrum, the coach can also have a negative psychological impact and ruin the prep and stress the person out just because of the way that they communicate.
I've got at least 5 DMs today that people have said they almost quit because of him. Mm-hmm. I swear to God, I'll post them. Like, it's crazy.
There's the tea.
You can do that to someone.
Kyle, what are you doing to anybody?
Say that again?
I said, what are you doing to somebody?
I don't know. I hope making their life better. That's my ultimate goal, right? I always tell people, I don't know. I focus on more than just bodybuilding, right? Because the shows come and go, but the problems that they kick down the street, they kick the can, they come back around. I talk from personal experience. I used to focus on preps, so I didn't have to deal with shit. And the shit is still there. It's just actually worse after the fact. So I think at some point in life, you need to realize that you can't just put all your bodybuilding doesn't solve your problems. It actually creates more occasionally when you're using certain drugs potentially, and then you don't get the results. God forbid you trust a coach perhaps, and they do lead you down the wrong path. that's almost, now you're just going to be depressed. Now you're in a real rut. So I don't know. Again, I think having expectations clarified, I hope people, it's almost like a domestic violence of males where people don't like speak out. If people are having problems with coaches, it doesn't matter who it is. Feel free to you don't have to message me, but I'm saying you should be able to speak up to someone and not be afraid of it. If this is the case, like I said, I've had a few people that message me, but I don't really go through too many. But Phil, if you're saying people are messaging you about negative experiences and all of that, my question is, at what point, why didn't you bring this up, right? Why does Quentin have to bring it up? And again, a lot of people, that's where you have to sift through the bullshit. Was it a bad coaching, or was it literally malpractice to some degree?
Bring it up to the coach or to the public?
Bring it up to the coach, number one. But number two, if the coach is not addressing it, hey, like, you took my money, you're not helping me, like, you don't pay attention, you're not coaching me, whatever it may be, make sure it's addressed, right? That's the reality of the situation. Because in the grand scheme of things, let's just be realistic. Speaking to Matt, and that's where I'll kind of end my thoughts on it, he doesn't need coaching. This is too late for it to come out. People's careers have potentially been affected. And if it's in a negative manner, like it's appearing for some people, because I'm sure there were some positive, that's not cool, right? But there's nothing. So yes, maybe the ego takes a hit or whatnot, or the reputation, but it doesn't affect anyone's life except the athletes that were affected. To which, hey, why haven't you spoken up? If you had this bad experience, why didn't you perhaps say something? Because maybe, not that people do much research, and I hope they do moving forward, but perhaps someone would have saw it and said, hey, that person, I saw like some nonsense, like 10 people were saying that they didn't get the right coaching from this person. I'm going to skip this person. I'm going to choose someone else. And that's what I hope people take out of it, is taking the time to sift through the nonsense and understanding, again, what does this coaching entail? What is this experience really like? Not the bullshit what I see online, game day, all whatever the fucking nonsense that people post. What is the truth behind it? Because people do in fact miss peaks all the time. So the whole I don't miss whatever, that doesn't exist. People fuck up. People could always be better. But I don't know. That's where it's just frustrating to me.
I think Kyle made a great point about this, about not being afraid to speak up, because if you don't speak up, they're going to do it again to somebody else. And then again, and then again. So the longer people don't speak up, the more it's going to go on. So it's important that people are able to speak up. But I wanted to touch, before we moved on, I wanted to touch on the psychological side one more time, because I think people will find this interesting, some interactions, right? So like in the past, me and Nick Walker have chatted, we've joked around, and a lot of people have always said to me and Nick, why don't you guys work together? And we both just looked at each other and started laughing. We're like, no, not happening. Because no matter how good he is, or no matter how smart I am, it's a bad matchup. I am high energy. I'm the type of guy that I see you hit the back of the body, and I'm sitting there going, yes, this looks freaking great. And Nick's going to be like, yo, calm the fuck down or get out of my room. Like, he needs calm. He needs relaxed. He needs simple instructions. I'm the total opposite. So no matter how smart I am, no matter how good he is, we're going to be a terrible matchup. So we both know this, like there's no chance of that happening. But again, now going back to what Kyle just said before, I actually had a discussion with a pro under one of the YouTube comments last night. And I ended up actually feeling bad, because as soon as he sent me a voice note, he sounded so nice, I felt like a bully. But I'm not going to say who it is, but I said to him, you do realize that the fact that he used you to market and get all these other clients, he utilized you to scam these people. And he's like, wow, I never thought of it that way. Like, because he took your reputation. Your reputation is what baited everybody in, right? Yeah. So he's like, shit, like I never thought of it that way. And I think a lot of these pros and a lot of these athletes, they don't think about it that way. They always give the answer, oh, well, they never did anything bad to me. Yes, but you're enabling them to do bad things to other people. So if you're aware that your coach is doing something bad and you're one of their marketing monsters, you're enabling it. You're playing a part in it.
Yeah. So, like Kyle said, it's kind of too late at this point. I mean, Jansen, he'll be fine. Like, it doesn't matter. He'll fucking go run triathlons and live his life. It's not going to affect anybody at this point, but everybody got fucked over.
It's not about punishing one person. It's about raising awareness so that this doesn't happen more. Listen, he's going to go live his life. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants, but that's not like Kyle said, it's not going to change anything. The only thing that's going to change anything is that we use this example moving forward and learn from it so that people do speak up, so that we don't let people like him get away with this. And that moving forward, people don't get scammed.
Mm-hmm. It's such a hard thing it's so hard to moderate coaching in this industry. It is an issue for multiple reasons. But I mean, I could tell you, I fucking worked with him. And like the reason why I never said anything is, for one, I didn't feel like the issue was anything significant enough for me to bring to the public eye. It was kind of just, I went through the experience and it was a disappointment, but it's not like, oh my God, I feel like I just got fucking scammed and fucked over. It's just like, this is kind of definitely not what I thought it was going to be. And it was definitely not an environment I wanted to be in. And I just didn't like the way that I felt there. So, and then everything I learned too, is like, okay, I could have brought that to attention, but then it's kind of like, who am I? You know, if the people who are actually relaying these things to me aren't saying shit, then it's just like, it wouldn't have done anything from my perspective. It would have just negatively came back and impacted me. And then I was also there around all these people. It's just like, I would rather have just did my own thing. I moved on, and then I started working with Phil, and that was it. It didn't seem like I had any power to do anything regardless.
And that's how people feel. But right before I let you finish this isn't going to be my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth time, but I'm going to be the old guy here being really childish and go, told you so.
Yeah, fucking yeah.
You know, I told you so before you went.
You know, what's actually funny, I won't say his name, but before I moved to Florida, I had spoken to another pro bodybuilder who you guys both probably know. And I told him the situation, and he was like, you're going to go there, and he's like, you're going to leave, and you're going to realize that it's all bullshit, and you're going to get fucked over, and you're going to realize that Jansen's a scumbag. And I was like, no way. No way. And then I saw him at Nationals, and he was like, I told you so. But I mean, I don't want to, again, like, who am I? I feel like there's definitely people who have had good experience with him. I feel like Brett has had a great experience with him. I mean, he's also like very close friends with him, so it's different. I don't know.
Hang on, because listen, I'm on very good authority. Listen, I wasn't standing there. I may or may not have spoke to people directly or indirectly or in the circle. He did not do Brett's prep recently at all, and he did not pick him for the show because he was not getting a response on the phone. I dare somebody to challenge me on that one, because I may or may not have absolute proof. So no, he didn't pick him for his last show, and no, he barely prepped him. Brett did his own shit.
Yeah, but my thing is, it seems, at least a lot of the cases that I'm hearing, a lot of them are referring again to the last 365 days, right? However, the longer it has gone on, it doesn't make it more or less acceptable, but the more of a problem it truly is to be uncovered for that many years and now to be coming out. That's a problem, right? That should never be the case in any profession.
You should have spoken up, is what you're saying.
So my thing is, at some point, at one point, he was on his shit for those top guys. He was answering them and doing, if he was whatever this growth hormone thing is, if he was paying for people's growth hormone come over, that's fucking crazy. And it's kind of cool.
Crazy.
That was his answer.
But my thing is, at some point, to get to where he was obviously responsive. But perhaps life is at a different point. I know he's got 2 boys, right? He's got a family. Perhaps the reality is just realizing, hey, I can't do this at this level anymore. I need to take a step back and realize that, again, you're fucking with top people. This is their career. They only have so many Olympians, so many years for their health to actually bodybuild. That's where I'm like, hey, I can't.
I want to ask you a question, Kyle.
I don't get it.
I want to ask you a direct question, and I want you to be honest, because I know Kyle's a very nice guy. He's already smiling because he knows he's not going to want to answer the question. Can you name me one person that you think would not have gotten where they got with a different coach with him?
Depends.
In fact, you even have to sit there and think about it.
Depends who the coach is. Right?
I'm talking about Matt Jansen. I'm talking about tell me an athlete
the people that we
really well that wouldn't have done well otherwise without him.
From my observation, a lot of these elite guys can do very well under the tutelage of anyone else.
He's giving the PC political answer.
What's that?
You're giving the PC political answer rather than giving me a yes or no.
The truthful answer, I don't think bodybuilding coaching is as nearly as difficult as people think it is.
That's the truthful answer.
Your question directly is, do you think
any of these top guys would not have gotten that far without him?
Yes.
Can you name
them? Some apparently. What do you mean?
They're getting free growth hormone.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm talking about the coaching, not financing it.
The coaching seems questionable all of a sudden. I'll be honest. It's weird.
But can you give me an athlete of his that you think would not have gotten to where they got without him?
I can't. Not that comes to mind. They're
That's
all
my
pros
point.
already, right? I don't. My thing is being seriously, not trying to be politically correct or ride the nice ship. It's all the guys that come to mind. They're literally already pro. They're good, right? So it's like it's hard to answer that question now. When a couple of these guys are leaving, if they start to do a lot better, damn, you were actually holding them back. Otherwise, you were at least navigating somewhat better because I know many of his athletes that he coached. I know we were speaking on someone that is pretty good in the classic division, a recent pro. I don't think he's under the right coach, but hey, he's doing better and better every show. But I put millions of dollars down that if that person went to somebody that was more experienced, more equipped, that person's top 5 Olympian in the next 3 years for sure. Right? So a lot of these guys, you find a genetic anomaly, you ride their coattail. That's what's going to make. They're the billboard. They're going to bring you 10 clients. You can build a coaching thing real quickly once you have a fucking genetic specimen under your belt. You have 10 of them. Start doing some math real quick. You realize, hey, this is easy. And it gets to a point after that where I guess if this whole ghost coaching thing is all true, which it's not the first time I've heard it, so I can validate as well. There's definitely some other weird shit going on. You get to a point where I don't want to say you're greedy, but you're not going to pass the opportunity up to take more people, which means, hey, I can only handle so many, just like myself. I'm at a point where I can only handle so many people. I know, hey, I can't answer you. Like you're going to pay me this price, but I'm letting you know this is my response time because I can't answer you efficiently enough depending on what you're looking for. But you get to the point where to continue to progress and scale your business, you can either do it the right way and have a true apprentice and make it very upfront. Hey, this is the person that's coaching under me. This is the cost. This is who you're interacting with. Or you do the shicey thing. You have somebody else pretending to be you. And to the extent that in which it went on, apparently, to again be also high level guys, that wasn't just like a Joe Blow was under somebody. It was like high level guys. Everyone's my money's green. Your money's green, right? Or maybe if you're different countries, different colors. But the fact is currency is currency. So if you're paying something and you expect, hey, you're coaching me, then make sure that that's the person coaching you. And again, I think anytime I see a lot of Olympians that are coaches. All I can say from my experience competing, Sebastian, you competed. My productivity when I am actively competing takes a shit. I can't coach the same. I'm tired all the time. I don't want to even put the time in. So when I see these Olympians like, oh, I'm now coaching, you don't know what a protein, a carb, a fat, you don't know the calories in any of them, right? So you don't know what you're talking about. So how can you be coaching me? They're just outsourcing their coaching. And you mentioned Greg, right? Apparently he does that too. I would hope for those goddamn prices. You have a whole team. It's fucking crazy. So if that's what people are doing, I don't know. At some point, I think that needs to be addressed. And the only thing that comes to mind for me is you're able to speak to the person in videos way more often.
You just gave us another great example of somebody who's amazing at marketing, charges exorbitant prices, but has no accomplishments. Like who has he ever made look great? Who has he really improved? Who has he done anything with? You could maybe talk about his own bodybuilding, but he wasn't that big. All he had to do was get lean. I think he was like 180 pounds or some shit like that. So like, what did he actually do to be worth those exorbitant prices that he charges? You know what he did? He built a big YouTube following. That's what he did.
Yeah, I think coaching comes down to what's that?
That's just supply and demand.
Yeah, it just becomes a marketing thing, and like
all it was marketing. He didn't accomplish anything to get those numbers that he charges. He marketed for it.
Well, that's my point. And this is the only industry where you don't need any type of credentials to hold a high position. You would think that best coaches, just like in any sport, right? Think of whatever sport you love or listeners love. Those coaches are compensated a pretty hefty amount. The good ones, right? The Phil Jackson in the NBA, a Bill Belichick, those are considered the best coaches. They get paid like the best coaches. And Nick Saban, right? Why is bodybuilding different? It's weird.
Because nothing is
all about
moderated.
perception now. It's not about performance, it's about perception. And because genetics can outperform knowledge. So like I could have a guy who's got pretty good genetics, and I could have this kid that just started working out yesterday, prep Phil Heath, and I'm going to lose. You know, so like it's all about like smoke and mirror. Because listen, I swear to God, I could go into the gym and pull out the kid that's been working out for 2 years and give him Phil Heath, and no matter who I pick out, I'm going to lose.
Yeah.
Because it's not a level playing field to begin with because of the genetic freaks out there. So it's a little different story.
See, here's the thing. You guys are only talking about the like upper echelon of bodybuilding, people stepping on stage, and I think you're both like out of tune, like you're not up to date with what's actually going on in social media.
That's
I did a whole podcast. I did a whole podcast on this. I deleted it because I just started saying too much crazy shit. And what's happening? Like we're talking about ghost coaching, this whole lack of integrity in the industry, but for the general population, there's a massive influx of coaches who are all bringing in, 60, 70, $80,000 a month and more. And it's all built off of lies essentially. And there's people out there advocating essentially for ghost coaching, essentially advocating for, I'm going to teach you how to become a fitness coach. You don't need any experience. You need to only train for maybe 1 year. You got to use Chat GBT to learn how to write training programs, how to write meal plans. I know numerous people who do this shit and make a living, a ton of money, have no actual client testimonials to prove. They don't show anything. It's just, it's not even like, what I'm saying is you don't even need the genetic elites to market yourself. You just need to know how to make fucking content. And the general population gets fucked over 20 times more than even the people in the bodybuilding industry.
Oh, you're 100% right. And I've seen that constantly. I've seen that nonstop. It's actually funny. My buddy's girlfriend actually signed up with somebody like that. And I had to show her that this was bullshit. She didn't want to believe it. So I was like, all right, let's go under her comments. Okay, we see all the comments. Okay, let's look at what this person said, this person said, this person. Let's go on their page. Okay, all the same people in the comments. Hey, babe, you look great. Yeah, this and that. Okay, now let's click on that person's page. They're all commenting the same shit under each other's pages. It's all the same people. It's all the same comment. They're in their freaking group that says we're going to just blow each other up with comments and likes, right? So it's a scam. It's all the same people. Look in the comments. There's nobody that actually knows them.
You're talking about engagement groups.
Yeah.
You're talking about engagement. I'm just talking about. I can right now.
Popular.
No, of course, but. Right. I mean, this is the thing, though. Like on social media, you don't even need to be popular. You don't need to have a lot of traction. Like I know people with less than 10,000 followers that are making over $50,000 a month from just selling bullshit. And it's because all you got to do is post consistently, get some reels. You know how to generate leads. I mean, you worked in fucking sales. You know how sales works. You get people on the phone, you close the call, you do 10 of those a day, and you sell people bullshit, and you give them these cookie cutter plans. You go on Chat GBT, you have this shit automated to respond. And this is a thing that has become trending in this industry amongst the general population. Like if you go and look at the kids who are trying to teach business coaching, like they will literally verbally advocate for this, and it's like acceptable.
Yeah, but eventually the reality
I think it's terrible, and I think it should be policed, honestly.
What are you gonna say, Kyle?
As far as from a coaching standpoint, the ones that are doing that, again, if the consumer just took the time to, again, do research,
yes,
and understand that when you go to inquire with a coach, there are certain check boxes. So if you're in your head, you're like, hey, this coach is really popular, he might not be coaching me, let me hop on a call with him, right? If he's not willing to do that at first, to me, probably maybe a red flag, number one, potentially, for sure. But have certain questions you want to ask to make sure this is going to work for you and that you can't be in this position. Because again, as much as it's easy to point the finger and say, oh, so-and-so just doesn't have integrity, these people that aren't saying anything, what's your issue, right? Were you just disgruntled? You got fucked over. You don't want to speak out. So at some point, we just have to be mindful of everything. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, I would say I said this in the last one, but I deleted it. Checkboxes, like you said, if they're willing to obviously get on a call with you, which I don't do, but if somebody asked me to do it, I would do it. If they have actual proof of results testimonials, it's not just a bunch of genetic freaks. And I think it's also perception problem with the general population too, is because they want to see the genetic freaks. That's what draws people in. I want to look like that. But you need to understand that people see the average guy, and they're like, oh, maybe that transformation is not that crazy, but it's example of a real world transformation. Not everybody's going to have a fucking Keon Pearson transformation, right? So,
Yeah.
how many people has this person actually worked with? What are the type of people that they're
But
working with?
there's also dead giveaways though. Whenever I post a client, or I don't post clients a lot, but whenever I did post a client, you tag the client. So if you're on a page and they're posting a bunch of transformations and there's nobody tagged, that's a red flag right there. That's probably something they got off Google Images and they stole off somebody else's page. A lot of times you find out that the pictures are like 10 years old. They get them all over the place. So is the person tagged, right? Go through that coach's tag pictures themselves. See who they associate with. Does it just look like a robot is running this page? In my eyes, it's pretty easy to pick out who's full of shit and who's a scammer and who's not. But for a lot of people at home, it's not. So these are the things you want to look for. Who's tagged? Who's commenting? What are the comments saying? Is it just a bunch of generic bullshit? If it looks like it's a very robotic page, it probably is.
I mean, that's obviously like some scam, but even the people that have like real audiences, there's a lot of shady shit going on here. But we've been on here for an hour. Before we wrap up, there's something I want to touch on because Kyle, you kind of touched on it earlier, and you mentioned domestic violence. So I'm assuming both of you saw Jeff Nippard get absolutely chokeslammed by Mike Van Wyck today.
Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous.
How do you feel about that, Kyle? How do you feel about that? I want to know Kyle's opinion on it.
See, I'm the type of person, I can be aggressive, right? I can be frustrated and pissed off. Obviously, for someone to get to that, whether it was backstory before that, something transpired. He didn't just walk in the gym and say, I had a bad day and I'm coming for you. So the stupid thing is being not mindful enough, because regardless whether he was a popular stature or not, you can't do it in a public setting. So to me, you're just a dumbass. Take that in the bathroom where there's no cameras. Hey, meet me out back. We need to have a conversation now. That's the way to go about it. And then, hey, if you're going to do that, if you're already at that point, cool. But to do it in a public setting now, he's going to deal with some negativity. And I think Mike he can help. He has good content. I think he helps a lot of people. And Jeff obviously has his people. So I just think it's not a good look. And now, again, people are going to forget about it. They always do, no matter how bad something is. This whole thing we're talking about coaching-wise, the reality is that it'd be a hot topic for 2 weeks. Once the next season rolls around, it is what it is, right? Just that's the reality of the world we live in. It's just going to be the hot topic. So it's what we do with it from here that matters, how people are proactive. But Phil, what's your take on the WWE?
Well, you guys both know. I texted you guys right away that the owner of the gym actually texted me and told me about it moments after it happened. And then I shot a text to somebody and actually got a hold of the video pretty quick. And I was pretty surprised at how it went down and why it went down. First of all, Mike is a lot bigger than Jeff. So in my mind, at least, when I'm having an altercation with somebody, if they're a lot smaller than me, usually I remove violence off the table, right? Because it's no use, trying to bully and pick on somebody who you're a lot bigger than, that you can hurt and you're trying to intimidate. So if I see somebody who's a lot smaller than me, in my mind, violence is really not going to be an option already. Now, typically, am I a violent person? Yeah, I used to be. But it depends on what it's about. This time it was about a video that Jeff made, and it was one of the nicest rebuttals you'll ever see. There was nothing mean about it. There was nothing controversial about it. It was very nice. He talked about himself, talked about his accomplishments, and he even said at the end that I have no problem listening to big guys who might not have certifications. And he didn't say it sarcastically. And, I got messages from people that were actually in the gym, and it wasn't just that one shove. He did it repeatedly, and the cameraman, and then
he choked. He threw him repeatedly.
Repeatedly held him on the ground, threw him repeatedly, and the cameraman.
What? He threw the cameraman?
It was a lot more than just that one clip. In my mind, it was completely uncalled for. Listen, people have bad days. People lose their temper. I've gotten along with Mike in the past. I'm not going to pass judgment because I don't know if something else went on that triggered him. But from what I understand the video, I don't know. I'm not involved in the situation. But I just don't like the fact of picking on somebody that's that small. And right before I came on here, I was on Quentin's story. And Quentin happened to mention that there was a guy at the Olympia that wanted to fight Mike that was 6'2" or something, and said, let's step outside. And Mike didn't want to step outside. So to me, that says, you're not going to fight somebody your size, but you'll pick on somebody smaller. That's what that says to me. And I generally just don't like that behavior because I'm a bully, So in my mind, that's uncalled for. If I owned him, he would not be coming back.
You're telling me, because that video, he like picked him up, he threw him like 10 yards, basically. You're telling me he went back, picked him up, threw him
Yeah.
again, and threw the cameraman.
I mean,
That's pretty fucking crazy.
You want me to read the message right here on air? I'll read it.
Post the message.
Read it.
I'll read the message right here to you guys.
This guy went full fucking Hulk smash mode.
Yes, absolutely. So he said, I just saw your repost on the Big Mike situation. I was in the back of the video. I watched the whole thing happen. Pushed him multiple times, barely let him up off the floor. Also pushed home cameraman, who probably wasn't even older than 16 now. I found out the kid was 19, Dorian told me. It was obvious he was a minor. Sad shit, man. Stormed out of the gym, didn't see him for the rest of the time he was there. I think he realized what he did. And he goes, yeah, dude fled the scene. I'm not going to put the insults in there. He said, swearing and everything. I couldn't believe my eyes. The kid did literally nothing. It was so sad. I looked at the dude next to me, complete stranger, and we were both in shock. Like, did he just push a child? That's the message.
Yeah, he'll probably get sued.
Things like that, again, that stuff shouldn't happen, right?
Well, the kid's father is supposedly a police officer, so this is going to get interesting.
Yeah, but again, why does this happen?
Something set him off. Doses might have been too high. We don't know.
But over what? Because your feelings are hurt, so you resort to it. Just people don't know how to communicate. If I have a problem with you, Phil, I'm gonna text you, and I might be pissed off, and I'm like, "Hey, come meet me here." But I'm at least have the common sense that at the end of the day, if we throw hands or you want to resort to, "Hey, I'm going to shoot you," what does that solve? It doesn't solve anything. Most of the time, it's just like, "Hey, I don't like the way you came off. Don't do it again. This is why," because it affects, and ultimately, someone's emotional about it because it's going to affect them, right? So my whole thing is, how is it affecting the other person? If I'm coaching somebody or not coaching somebody, apparently, but they think I'm coaching them, whatever it may be, how does that affect the person, right? It just becomes, hey, this is not right. This is unfair. I probably shouldn't do this, or at least I should try to make it very clear what is going on. That's my thing. So when I hear these things, and I saw the Mike thing, I don't know Mike more than the person across the street that I haven't met yet as I moved into a new neighborhood. But seeing this is not cool. Like, there's no excuse for it. It shouldn't happen. I think you're a dumbass if you put your hand on somebody in a public setting like that, especially over a social media post.
Well, let's be real. This is not going to be good for his career. You know, he does all this filming in that gym. He's probably not going to be welcome back in that gym. He's going to have to rethink everything.
But it passes. It moves on. Like I said, Kobe Bryant raped a girl. What happened to him?
Did he really?
Yes.
What? Where is he?
See? People don't even know these things.
I didn't know that either.
Look it up. It was a whole big scandal, the whole case. And people forget about these things. They're like, oh, it didn't happen. Come on, right? You have Alex Rodriguez took steroids, remember? It was a whole big thing. People, but at the end of the day, everyone's loved. People are like, oh, you own the Timberwolves. No one cares because it's just something to talk about, but it doesn't affect you personally until it does. Then you'll never forget about it when you have a bad experience personally. So that's why I scratch my head when I hear people are having bad experiences coaching, not poor coaching, but those malpractices. Why are you not speaking up on it? Go to someone bigger. Hey, I need you to do me a favor. I'm having this problem. I know you work with this coach. Reach out to him. Right? At some point, the message has to get somewhere, I think. I don't care how everyone's a human. We all have the same voice and reach to a degree, maybe not on a social media platform, but we could all go to the police department. We could all go do whatever it is. We could all reach out to each other.
Listen, I don't want people to start bombarding me, but listen, Quentin even said this on the story. He said, yo, if somebody's doing something like that and you feel like you don't have a voice, reach out to somebody like me, just like you said. And I've had people reach out to me. And if the story is bad enough, you better be damn sure I'll say something. Because I have no PC, I have no filter, I'm not afraid of anybody. So no matter how high level the person is, no matter who they are, who they're connected with, if you do something scummy enough and somebody listen, I'm going to need proof, not your word, not what you think. You're going to have to provide me proof. But if you can provide me hard evidence that somebody did something really, really scummy and immoral, best believe I'm going to say something about that. And I will go at them hard because I don't like that. I've got a very high sense of, moral character and what I believe in how things should be. So I don't like people being picked on. I don't like people being abused. I don't like people being robbed. I don't like people being scammed. So just like this situation with Jansen, how I went fucking off. I went off because I've been watching it for 10 years. And now this was the time to do it. And look at what happened. His reputation is destroyed forever. His legacy's gone. It'll never be the same. He'll never be respected. He'll never be remembered because of this, and deservedly so. So, there's more people out there that are doing these things, and those people need the same treatment.
The camp is on fire.
That camp is burnt down, honestly.
Is it?
I mean,
In
who's
my
going to run
mind,
it?
how do you come back from that?
What?
What are you saying?
I said, how do you come back from that?
He doesn't have to. He retires. He rides the horse.
He's going to retire because he can't come back from that. No pro is going to work with him now. Nobody's going to trust him ever again. So he has to retire. He's got no choice. He just got forced into retirement because he's not going to have any clients anymore. No one's going to work with him. No pro will ever give him a chance again because he's just been exposed. So it's not like it's hearsay. It's not like we're guessing.
Do you honestly think the video is what makes him retire? Or do you think the fact that even if the video didn't come out, perhaps maybe an athlete or two leaving would make him retire?
I think the fact that the videos came out, I think the fact that a lot of people came out and said something like, I think the example was Bill Cosby, right? One person said something, and then all those girls came out of the woodwork. His reputation is destroyed forever. He was a very beloved, character on television that everybody watched growing up, everybody loved and thought the world of, and now that'll never be the case again. So I think that that's the exact same situation. I think his reputation is completely tarnished and destroyed. I think everybody sees him for exactly what he is now, and that's the way it's going to stay, and he can't fix it. So what he's got to do is pick up his bags and exit, and that's what he's going to do. Guarantee it. Mark my words.
Did you just compare Matt Jansen to Bill Cosby?
Yeah.
Well, I did say on the other podcast he didn't break any laws like that. But
is that the title? Is Matt Jansen the new Bill Cosby?
The situation of people being afraid to speak up, and then finally one person speaks up, and then all of the victims come out of the woodworks, right? Yeah. So that's exactly what happened here. And there's no coming back from it. There's nothing that's ever going to fix Bill Cosby's reputation, and there's nothing that ever is going to fix Matt Jansen's. It's done. He destroyed his reputation because of bad behavior that didn't need to happen. All you had to do was be a good person and do your job, and everybody would have loved you for it.
No, I think shit happens, but this is a lot of shit at once, unfortunately.
There's a lot of shit. I mean, this isn't just one instance and one thing. This is years and years of.
I'd like to
many people.
I'd like to see some type of statement, right? Perhaps acknowledging, taking some accountability. I think that would do. You
and I both know that's not going to happen.
Justice, but I don't know. Maybe we'll be surprised. He's not man enough to take
responsibility for the things that he's done wrong. He's going to gaslight. And he's going to try to put it on someone else. That's what he always does.
But that would be the right thing to do, right? Is to take accountability.
Absolutely, 100%. Listen, we talked on the phone before this, and I told you. Listen, I said, James Hollingshead for New York Pro 2019. I brought him in flat because I was trying to get him really dry. I was afraid to fill him out to a certain point because I knew he had to be conditioned. I went online and I said, this was not James's fault. I did it. I brought him in flat. I was trying to do something. I messed up. I'll do better next time. And I did do better next time. That was the only show I messed up with him. But I came out and accepted it. And I admitted it. I took responsibility because I didn't want him getting the backlash for something that he didn't do wrong. And I think that's what makes a man is when you do something wrong, you take responsibility, you admit it. What really pissed me off was him trying to throw Nick under the bus and act like it was Nick's fault. But now what's really satisfying is if you go under all the comments and there's probably 20, 30 YouTube videos on this now that were made overnight. And if you look at all the comments online, you look at all the YouTube videos, now Nick is vindicated. Everybody knows it wasn't Nick's fault. But initially he threw Nick under the bus. So I think that was scummy, and I think this is karma. I think he got exactly what he deserved.
Yeah. I mean, the example you gave, you were still coaching though. Like he's done. He's retired. So I mean, it makes sense for you to take accountability. I mean, obviously taking accountability is the right thing, but like whether he does or doesn't isn't going to make any difference in his life.
No, it's not.
No.
Yeah. It's like a criminal standing up in court and saying, "Yeah, I committed the crime." Well, you still did the crime. No one's gonna just let that go.
I just hope
there's a lot of people that were wrong. Listen. There's been messages shared, right? And I've shared some messages of people that, listen, again, I wasn't there. I can't say this is a fact. This is what I've told. This is the screenshots I've been shown that he took money many times and didn't even deliver a program. Listen, how many, you think 10, 15, 20, 30 people made up the same story just randomly? Come on.
That's probably because one of his ghost coaches didn't get the message.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I mean, listen, that could be a lapse in communication possibly, but listen, the fact of the matter is there's people that paid money that didn't get what they paid for, and they didn't get their money back. And listen, that's me. If I'm dropping $4,000 and you don't give me a program, I'm flying cross country. I'm knocking on your door. And I don't understand why people could just let that go. But like you said, I do understand how you could feel like you don't have the power to say or do anything, especially being younger. Like you're very young, Sebastian. So I get it how like you're younger and you feel like you can't stand up to this big, respected person who, everybody reveres and whatnot, who supposedly has this reputation. So I get how people can be afraid to say something. And
well, what's crazy? What's crazy is, like I said, when I was going to move there, that was relayed to me, right? So it's like now everybody knows, right? But this was a known thing amongst like who was on the inside of bodybuilding for a long time, but nobody spoke about it at all. Like everybody knew on the inside.
It wasn't generally known enough to save you, was it?
That's what I'm saying. No, like I never even heard about it till that first person. That was the first time it was brought to my attention.
You spent money moving. You spent money on a coach. You probably dropped thousands and thousands of dollars on that to learn that hard lesson with him, right?
My question:
think about how many other people did too.
What was that, Kyle?
If you're saying like you had some inkling or knowledge of this previously, why did you still go through with it? What was like your thought process? Because I'm sure it was similar to perhaps other people.
So that happened when I had that conversation. That was when everything was already set in stone. I was moving. I had already hired him, and that was like the plan. I had the conversation, and then he relayed that to me. And my initial thought process was just like, oh, like, because you hear that about everybody too. Like I've heard people talk shit about Phil. I've heard people talk shit about you. I'm sure people talk shit about me. Like, some people.
You're talking shit about me.
But like people say shit. So it's like maybe he just doesn't fucking like this guy. Like, maybe he had this bad experience, But obviously, like I see him working with Brett. I see him doing good things with people. So it's like, all right, well, I'm already like, am I gonna just take one person's word? I see all this shit happening. Like obviously he's gotta know his shit. So once I was there though, once I was in that environment, it was mind blowing. Because everybody in that environment knew. It wasn't just like one person, like every fucking person.
Yeah, exactly. And I caught a lot of comments today about why didn't you say something sooner? Well, I want everybody to pay attention. What Sebastian just said is exactly why I didn't say anything sooner, because I'm a coach. It just seems like it's my competition, like I'm jealous, like I'm mad. You're not going to listen to another coach telling you this, because that's the competition. You needed somebody who's been in that situation, like Quentin, to come out and speak. That's what made the difference. That's why I could not speak up, because my words would have gotten nowhere. It would have backfired on me and made me look bad, and he'd have been sitting there laughing. So I was not able to do anything about this until somebody like Quentin came forward, and thank God he did.
Yeah, I know. Phil's been wanting to do it forever.
I've been watching him do this for almost a decade. I've been chomping at the bit to expose him, and you know what? This is gratifying. This is satisfying. He got what he deserved, and listen, it is what it is. If he's got a problem, we live an hour and a half away.
What was that, Kyle?
I was just going to say in conclusion, it's just disappointing to hear. And I hope, again, I hear some type of clarity or statement.
Well, maybe we'll get him on if this gets 1,000 likes and people send us free growth hormone. Maybe he'll come bite. We'll get to interview him on here and get some closure.
You guys think this is done? Kyle knows I save every receipt. Wait till I charge all my old phones. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming out of my. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming out of my Instagram this week from all of my old phones. There might be a little some examples of plagiarism of some sorts. Kyle knows exactly what I'm talking about. From Facebook,
those pink phones. Those pink phones.
Yeah, so all my pink phones and my orange phone. I have every phone. I don't throw them out. I have every receipt, and we're going to have some fun stuff I'm going to be sharing this week. So Matt, if you listen to this, you have some fun stuff to look forward to, buddy.
He's going to pull up the BlackBerry?
No.
All right.
BlackBerry. I did have a flip phone, though. I didn't know him when I had a flip phone.
Any other tea you want to spill, Phil, before we close out here?
Follow me on my Instagram this week. It's going to be eventful. But I honestly, when I get off of here, I'm looking forward to going and seeing Antoine and Gallant and Quentin's podcast, because I know that's going to be eventful.
Yeah. I talked to Quentin about getting him on here before, so I'll see if he wants to come on soon.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Kyle?
Hey, man. I like to stay out of the drama. Okay, so if I'm pulled in, it's indirectly not my fault. I'm just looking out for other coaches and this saturated industry where people think it's a money grab. It could be avoided if you just do some due diligence. That's all.
Just do your job and be a good person. A lot of people want this job because they think it means you get to sit home and do whatever the hell you want all day and kick your feet up on the couch and not have to work and go to the gym and go to the beach. And every once in a while, you'll answer some clients. They want this job because they think it's easy and it's not time consuming. I'm going to tell you, it can be really time consuming if you're doing a good job.
I'm up till fucking 1 a.m., 2 a.m. answering people on a regular basis.
Kyle and Mike Charles used to laugh and joke because I would send them updates at like 2 a.m.
No. But, all right. I think we're good here. Again, I don't really like to cover drama, but I think this
I think we covered what we needed to cover.
So the next episode will be something educational. We'll talk about your thyroid or something. Till next time, like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a comment down below. If you have any interesting stories, you can share them down below, share them with Phil, or even share them with Kyle, or you can share them with me too. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Brass Tack Bodybuilding. Peace out.